And over time, it eventually supplanted it, right?
Underway.
Well, I think it's so much more like this, where it's like there's an ideology that is loud and passionate and technically on noble ground, that their whole goal is to get personhood for their various letters among the alphabet, LGBTQIA plus community, right? And that's awesome. Like, they actually have been discriminated against and legally forced to hide themselves, and that's fine. Believe in freedom, total freedom, or no freedom. Like, total freedom to be a piece of shit so you can get arrested. Like, that's why we have law enforcement, is because you chose to act out, right? Like, that's part of the deal, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you hamstring people in hiding, like, yeah, they're gonna have a righteous cause.
We have law enforcement because you have freedom to act out.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to have somebody enforce the consequences of transgression, but also not lead transgression up to sinning. And this is the same thing in terms of the holidays part, because like they're taking our modern entertainment. Like they didn't have to do this to Dune. They could have wrote their own universe and done this with their own characters and could have just kept holding Dune in the background. But instead, they wanted to insert their ideology, their religion, into the story to quote unquote modernize it or Christianize it and take somebody else's work and bastardize it. Like you
Anyway,
can say whatever justification.
Anyway, that's pretty hard to start the night off. There's your 2 minutes of background audio. We'll see you guys on the other side. Tonight, we come back from a surprise break to rave about Masters of the Air, Last Airbender, and Castle in the Sky, as well as Star Trek and everything else going on in the world. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. And one day, we'll get this show right, it'll look exactly like it's supposed to, and it's gonna be our best episode ever. And that's not today. But today is still a great day, because I did remember to unmute Corione. And I did also remember to unmute Hoyo Zapatos.
Yes.
Okay, one of you actually took it seriously. Welcome back. We're sorry we had to cancel last minute last week. We had some surprise sicknesses come up, and so yeah, we're here now to play catch up on our discussion. But first, how's everyone doing this week? John, let's start with you.
I am doing phenomenal. It's Tuesday, finally here to discuss things like the Avatar, which I enjoyed. Yeah, pretty great. How are you?
Oh, you enjoyed it, but well, I don't know if that's going to be allowed tonight, but we'll see. Corione, what about you? How are you feeling tonight?
Well, it was an interesting day today. I had some people try to break into my home and realized that attempting to break into the home of an incredibly angry Viking with a sword is probably not the best way to, engage in your thievery.
No, definitely not. That's sounds like a fun-filled afternoon. Gotta give credit where due. Ballsy to break into someone's house in the middle of the day when the, great ball of light that shines on all of us, it shows everything that's going on. It's so easy to escape during the daytime, isn't it?
Yeah, well.
But aside from that, probably lucky to be alive, I imagine. What exactly did you ward your intruders off with?
Well. That.
So there you have it. Crazy angry guy with sharp steel. If you want to, if Corione's crap is that, I
Well,
mean,
all I can say is this: I brought a sword to a gunfight and won, and there are very few people that can say that, and in this day and age.
yeah, no, that definitely is definitely not. But glad you're safe. Glad you're here. Glad
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
talk about some. So what have we got going on then in the world of pop culture?
Well, today has actually been a pretty active story day today. So, Disney CEO Bob Iger is like quietly killing off several projects. And these are projects that they either no longer believe in, don't think are the right fit, or won't make money at the box office. Now, this is leading to a lot of speculation as to what they could be. I'm putting money on it being things like the fake Ray movie and the Acolyte. I also get the impression that the live action remakes that have not been making that much money are probably on the list as well. So we'll see how this all comes together now. But it looks like Disney is actually getting the message that, some of these projects are not profitable and they want to make money. So they're going to have to actually do something to earn people's money now.
They want to make money.
Yeah, strange.
The audacity. They have the audacity to want to make money, and so they're going to kill projects that aren't going to work. Preposterous.
It almost seems like, and this may just be my theory on this, they might be tired of losing money in favor of the message, and are now in favor of making money so that they can, eat.
Eat what? Gold? They're so rich.
Yeah, but
Anyway,
they're
I
also
think-
multiple billions in debt, right?
Right, but like reap what you sow so you know what you grow. Like it's a lot like America when you decide to own all of the studios and all of the IPs, and then you let like 10 wild actors and like directors start just butchering whatever they want. Oops.
Yeah.
Like you could have, invested in those other studios and allowed them to operate independently of your one vision, which is the most obvious vision of all corporations, which is to make money. Which is weird, like when you gamble on multiple eggs in multiple baskets, you tend to get more chances at multiple profit revenues. And the craziest thing is if you compete them against each other, they start to improve, kind of like leagues of teams. And so like had you have let the competition exist rather than just buying everything as fast as you can and putting all of your eggs into one basket that is now rotten, oops, like all of the old adages still ring true. Just because you're rich doesn't mean you get to buy your way out of them, obviously, otherwise you would have by now.
Honestly, if you ever wonder why they want to put certain privatizations, or I'm always leery of legislation that's supposed to go and regulate the internet, because the internet only needs regulation when it comes to what's already in law. That's the silly thing, is like the rights and freedoms that we have basically just translate over. It's not like
the biggest thing is the number of internet companies. Again,
Right.
Competition. There's only
Right.
3 of them.
But see, the thing is, think of it this way though, John. Think of it this way. See, imagine if the corporations were able to control the reviews of their products and of their site, then
Right.
they wouldn't need to worry about competition, because you'd have all of these 5-star reviews for your obviously bad product, but it wouldn't matter because you control who's allowed to review your products or not.
And that's why I buy strictly North Korean made products, because their reviews are perfect. Like 100% success. Everybody loves them. North
Yeah.
Korean products.
No,
for
I
life.
got this. I
I
got
buy
this. I got this
North
lighter.
Korean chunks of
I got this
paperweight.
lighter from Fearless Leader. It never works, but Fearless Leader says it works. There's a 5-star rating. Fearless Leader
So it
knows what
works.
he's doing.
It works.
It
You
does.
just don't have faith. and
Exactly.
That's your problem, dude.
This is, of course, our way of announcing that we have finally been bought up by the corporations. We are now officially selling out, guys. We are no longer, a disagreement is
We
no
are
longer
now
allowed. We are now
pro-corporate
products
tyranny.
of the corporate sludge. Let's see, what are we talking about tonight? Oh, Last Airbender on Netflix. Guys, bestest show ever. Bestest thing. Do you remember when they said the phrase and the catchphrase? The catchphrase was great. I loved the catchphrase. My also love was really blown away by the action. When they had the action was good. Also, what else happened? The dialogues was good dialogues. I like the dialogues. All right, next show. Masters of the Air, planes, good. Okay.
This is the human podcast.
The human
For
podcast.
Humans, by humans.
Yes.
Humans.
Masters of the Air, much emotional this week. Nah.
Okay, let's stop that now.
Let's never sell out.
Punk rock for life.
Absolutely. So, but like actual punk rock, because punk rock now is, you know, Raging with the Machine is cool.
No, punk rock is punk rock. Just because they're all stealing the genre doesn't mean they get to steal the blood. Punk rock.
All right. And so, we got any more pop culture news to touch on before we move into?
I think that's the really big stuff. There's a lot going on in gaming news, but we're going to touch on that later.
Yes, join us at the very end for our gaming news. We all know that you're so eager for us to talk about the Studio Ghibli movie Castle in the Sky, which I regret not watching again this week, but oh well. I remember it from last week, so it's all good. But first, we're finally going to get on the bandwagon. Well, we were going to get on the bandwagon last week when it was still relevant. Now we're late to the party. Not that I care that much, because we do our thing, our way. And, you know, we're open to suggestions from those of you in the comments if you guys want to see us review something. We are totally picking up Shogun for sure, but we'll argue about that at the end of the show. For now, The Last Airbender on Netflix is, in my opinion, a very solid attempt to do a loving retelling of an already great story. But of course, we have to take our opinions from everybody if we're gonna get this show right, which, you know, we certainly try our best. So I, of course, put the poll out on our YouTube and our Twitter. I guess we could start doing Facebook polls. And so here it was. Did you enjoy the Netflix adaptation of Avatar: Last Airbender? After 5 votes, we had 40% yes, 60% apparently were unaware that there was an Avatar on Netflix. Night
So
Fury.
America has spoken. It's official.
Yeah. Night Fury says clicking yes, but only because there was slightly more to enjoy than there was to dislike. So, all right. Well, Night Fury, if you happen to make it in, please feel free to. This is now the time to follow up that discussion. And Alexander
and
Alvaro.
please elaborate, because
Yeah.
I love hearing other people's opinions. I listened to quite a few podcasts about it.
Yeah. We want you to listen to less of other people's podcasts, and we want fans of our podcast to be what Pollo Zapatos reads and listens to. Alexander
Well,
Alvarez
argues in general.
says never watched it because I never cared. All right, cool. So that's from the YouTube side, and then of course Twitter is a little bit of a different story. Not exactly sure why, but did you enjoy the Avatar Last Airbender? Well, apparently everyone on Twitter was aware it was there, because there were no votes for that. 9.1% after 11 votes said no, while the other 90.9% said yes. We also had a comment on this poll from Storyman Jack. Says, I think the cartoon was a monster to adapt. I agree. The characters don't have a lot of chemistry in the beginning, but get better along the way. Yep. No, Aang doesn't ride either a giant koi fish or sleds on 6-legged penguins, but it felt like the cartoon in the end. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good summary of my own feelings. I think that by the end of the show. It was finally getting to its stride, and I am excited for a second season. And yeah, so that's
Before
some
we
of our opinion.
continue,
What?
personally, that was awesome. I loved that. Bringing up the survey results from the audience. Also, audience, let us know how you
We're gonna
felt
try
about
and
that.
yeah.
now
I'm gonna try to remember
look
to do
at
this
how
every
you're-
week.
your participation is now a part of
Yeah.
the presentation.
Exactly. And if you leave your comments, I will read them unless you specifically ask us not to, but I'm not like gonna hide them either. So if you don't want your comment read, don't comment, I guess. But specifically on the polls is what
We
we'll
try to
typically
keep it
share.
public for this exact reason.
Honest
A,
quality human content.
love the discussion.
Speaking
I
of
wanna
honest
respond to
quality,
those thoughts.
honest quality humans, Captain Go Away is in the chat. Good to see you, Captain Go Away. And thanks for the popcorn. Glad you're enjoying the show. So yes, I want to do more polls, probably even for more of the segments, but that's, I'm just going to shoot for one poll per thing that we do, so I'll probably pull Shogun next week. The reason why I want to talk about Shogun is because one of our friends and supporters, and someone we do cross streams with, and I haven't in a second, but we will again, Krinzu, is apparently a huge fan of the books, and even the original miniseries, and so that's the kind of enthusiasm that I'd like to talk about around shows, and Shogun already looks badass anyway, so, 1 + 1
When is
equals...
FX?
Exactly. Huh?
FX has been pretty. FX has dropped.
Oh,
bangers
no,
from
it's
the
even
Old
better than
Man
FX.
to-
Even better. Streaming straight to Hulu.
Right. Well, no, it's FX is the parent of the channel on Hulu that streamed it. So like the Old Man. It's right up there with the Old Man.
Yeah, exactly. Captain Go Away says, feel free to read my comments, although this one specifically is probably too self-referential. I mean, that's, no. It's there, and it's forever
Yeah, I'm gonna
stamped on the
respond
video
to
there.
that one real quick. I do feel free.
On a scale of 1 to, on a scale of Canada to America. Anyway,
Oh, we're gonna go there today, huh?
Now,
Okay.
on a scale of China to whatever this corporate oligarchy crap is, anyway, they're all bad. We can still improve, though.
Guys, we're not slaves. We're just too poor to move anywhere.
That's right. Yeah, be grateful. Be grateful for what you have, people who have more than you. So, speaking of people who have more than me, Netflix has a lot more resources to make good shit. And I gotta say, like, so this is where I draw the line. So here's my dividing line between I'll respect your opinion and you're a dumbass, and I'm gonna call you a dumbass to your face. And this is it. Because if you are so edgelord cringy, full of yourself, to actually unironically promote the idea that the M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie was better than the Netflix adaptation. Okay. Here's the one area where I will agree.
I have the response.
Exactly. But there's one, hold on. If you hate the Netflix adaptation, you are correct in saying that the movie is better in that it's shorter. I can't argue with you there, because that's fact. You only have to suffer 2 hours instead of 8. So, that's fair. But that's it. The effects are bad. I couldn't even actually watch the movie. That's how bad the movie was. I sat streaming it in my jammies, drinking. Mind you. Yeah, 45 minutes. That's it.
I've never seen it.
Be grateful.
Subject
no,
your eyes at your own discretion.
It's a 100% personal boycott. I
Right.
have never seen it
if you
on
hate
purpose.
the Netflix Airbender, and your argument for the movie being better is that it's shorter, fine. Any other argument for the movie being better, you're going to need to come on this show and explain and articulate yourself. Because just objectively, you're not only wrong, we know what you're trying to do. Nice try, but the
Double
reality
dare you.
is the show does have a lot of good things going for it. But enough about me and what I think is good and bad. Gentlemen, how do you feel? Corione, do you think that it's a fair comparison, the Netflix live action with the movie?
No, I really don't. Let's start at okay. The special effects on the Netflix series were significantly better. The writing overall, what they chose to adapt, was significantly better. The changes they made to the fundamental basis of the characters in the M. Night Shyamalan version were just out of control bad choices. Whereas I will say for the Netflix series, they did their level best to stay true to the characters. Look, could they tell realistically with the budget they're going with per episode and the amount of episodes they get, could they realistically tell do a shot for shot remake of the cartoon? No, they couldn't. But the stuff they chose to cut made logical sense to do it. Okay? You may not agree with that. You may feel, hey, my favorite scene in the first book was missing from this part. And that's fair. And that's an understandable thing to say. Okay? I'm not going to argue that. But if you look at the project from a perspective of, okay, we have to cut something, they cut what they absolutely needed to cut here. And this definitely felt more like a YA retelling of it as opposed to a younger kid retelling of it.
Well, so the original cartoon I classify as family friendly.
Yeah.
And it's same as like Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Now, what do we mean by family friendly? Well, we mean that with the literal definition, like everybody in the family is going to get some enjoyment out of this. It does have its, kids show moments, but those are not the primary focus or theme of the show. And usually a lot of the humorous moments I actually find funny. I rewatch Avatar and I'm like, this is actually better than I remember each time. So yeah, there's a lot to it that has to be. Yeah, now at the same time, I do think a little bit too much was cut. I think a 12 episode run could have been doable, and I think you could have had a couple of the different side quests. That said, given the budget that they had, I do hope that we do get more episodes for the next season. I don't think there's any reason to keep all 3 books to 8 episodes. I really hope they don't do that. If they do, then
I don't get why they didn't do 10, like literally 10 20-minute, or it's 20-minute episodes.
Yeah. This is a glorified
10
mini-series. This isn't a full
episodes.
season. Yeah.
No, it is.
No, it's not. It's not. It's glorified. No.
In terms of total hours, airtime, I think it's literally like 45 minutes shorter than the entire first season.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, but that was a show that already had 30-minute episodes planned.
That's what I'm saying, and this one, that's what they could have done with this one, because literally each hour is 3 episodes.
Well, sort of. I did like what they decided to, like, first of all, showing the airbenders, being taken out. That was giving them an actual moment on screen. I think was a good idea. It was hard to watch, but it was I think it was necessary.
I thought it was phenomenal because it actually made things make more sense. Because one of the things about the kids show and Aang's interpretation of the airbenders always seemed a little childish. They didn't fight back when the firebenders are in their face killing kids in front of them. That's a little odd, right? And so what we saw parents defending children. It was awesome. And it wasn't meant to be we're gonna try to destroy you. But then the next part where Sozin literally goes, if it wasn't for the comment, we would have lost that first fight. A lot of the things that were added weren't really added. They were just chopped from the later seasons and brought into this season. And they were minor flashbacks in the first season, but they were huge world tying together events that triggered everything and made it all make sense.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about this, is it really does feel like the Peter Jackson version of the cartoon.
I like that.
It's not perfect, but what they cut was a lot of fill. It was the 5-minute intro exposition of the episode, the 5-minute B-roll, the 5-minute C-roll, and then the 10-minute climax was kept, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's what we lost, really. And like, that's the worst part about a lot of it is like, Corin, you made it just make complete sense. The CGI for Appa alone.
Right.
Imagine doing the koi fish. Imagine doing Roku's dragon.
Dude,
Yeah.
the water kaiju at the end was
Oh
like,
my god,
that exceeded
amazing.
expectations visually.
That was absolutely what it should have looked like initially, but they could never do.
Right.
Right.
It would have been way outside the paint in terms
Yeah.
of like what their art style was in the show versus like that's really the thing that got to me about the whole show is like I'm actually watching kids, whereas like voice actors, I don't care about their age at all. I don't acknowledge it. And so when I'm watching a cartoon where kids are getting hurt, but like listening to little kids go through this stuff, it's like, God, I wish you had better dads. Which, so do they.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, even Katara and Sokka, their dad is a great dad, but he had to leave, you know? And to defend the family and defend the tribe. And that's the worst part about like war is dad has to go even if he's a good dad. And like this show, I felt like I was listening to one podcast that was doing an episode by episode breakdown. The Night's Watch, I love them. But for their like biggest grievance about each episode so far is it really seems like they're watching kids suffer. And they got like hung up on the way that the kids look and act younger than the cartoon. And I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty sure they're all age accurate. Like, they got a 12-year-old for Aang. They got a 16-year-old for Sokka and Katara. I can't remember all the ages, but I want to say that Zuko was age accurate. And the problem is some 16-year-olds just don't hit a growth spurt. And even in the story, Zuko didn't hit a growth spurt until season 2.5. Like,
Yeah.
like I feel like they really got the actors right. I loved this show. I thought it was a ton of fun. I just also realized, like, shit, I am old.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 3 characters I really felt they didn't capture to my satisfaction. And that's the girl squad, Azula, Mai, and thing. They sounded right. They behaved right. They just didn't look right to the cartoon.
Okay,
But
yeah,
that's okay. Like, I'm not.
But they
Like, it's
didn't
a
exist
nitpick.
yet.
Right,
didn't
it's true.
exist yet,
They don't
which
really come
made
out
it
till season 2,
for
yeah.
me.
And that's reasonable. Look, I'm not saying it was a bad choice. I'm just saying, for me, this pulled me out a little bit. But otherwise,
Which one's the goth one?
Mai.
She was killing me. I was like legitimately like the blue flame in Smash or Super Mario movie. The blue flame that's like super depressing in the prison cell.
Yeah.
That's what she reminded me of. Like, she just looked like a cute kid, and then she was saying the darkest
Yeah,
things.
to
I
be
was like,
honest, actually, I felt that she was probably of the 3 of those well cast, and I actually like that she is churned up a little bit because
I thought she was perfectly dressed.
I
just
felt
thought
in the
she
cartoon
had like a young kid's
Yeah,
face.
but that's
all
just it.
3 of them did. But
I felt that
even,
in the cartoon that her like depression was like, you know, more exaggerated than necessary. So I actually felt that the live action performance was believable. Like, this is someone
Yeah,
who's
and
still
I'm not saying
cynical.
it wasn't believable or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like, please don't mistake it. It was still a good performance, but it felt like they went out of their way to look for actors that looked the part of the roles, except on the girl team.
I would
If that
agree.
makes any sense.
And I think that's like the hardest part is like, I think if they are doing it age accurate and they are trying to capture these kids just like the Avatar in their ages matching up, one of the things that throws me off is that the sister, she was completely nuts
Oh,
And for
Azula?
the-
Yeah.
Yeah, Azula. She was like picture perfect, but for the first time, I actually figured out who the Girl Squad really is. And basically, Azula is Mulan, but the king's daughter. And so she actually is royalty automatically. And those two, the two, Mai and the other one, are her kindness and her like her empathy at pure empathetic self, and then her depression at pure depression self. And they are her emotions voiced. Like, of anybody in the room, they were the only two that could talk to her freely. It was weird, and I didn't get that in the first Avatar, like the actual show. But in this show, I got
Okay.
that almost immediately, and that threw me through a loop because like I just started seeing the two characters that are on Mulan's shoulder the whole time, the beetle and the dragon, and that it made it funny to me.
Fair. Like I said, I think it was really well done. You know, I'm not saying it wasn't or anything along those lines. I think with what they had available, it made perfect sense the way they did things. The pieces that throw me are nitpicky. Right? And I freely admit that, right? And I feel like that's okay, right? Like, I feel like if I have to look for reasons why this is a problem, somebody did something really right.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Like this feels like a teacher looking for reasons why this isn't an A+.
Yeah.
And
And
that's fine.
yeah,
Like, that's honestly like that's the goal. Like in terms of a lot of adaptations today, finally. You know what I mean?
yeah. Like, I'm totally good with that. Like, I am good with being the guy who's got to sit down and go, okay, I got to find something wrong with this to give them a direction to go. I mean, look, there are some pieces that I do have, I want to say, issues with. I don't like, I did not like the change where they had Sokka and Katara in the Cave of Love together. It just wasn't, it lost something from the original.
I
mean,
loved the song and I loved that whole scene.
Yeah.
That was really sad.
yeah, like I absolutely love the song, right?
But
And
I
I
love
mean,
that whole gang. Like they were the stoners, like they were the Shaggy gang just
Yeah.
showing up for one episode. I was like, nice. Even Avatar has that for Western media.
oh yeah, no, I love that. I'm just saying that like in the original, it was Aang and
what I'm
Katara in the
saying.
cave.
No, and I liked the
Yeah.
gang going with Sokka and Momo, and like Sokka's losing his mind while these hippies aren't. And I loved that whole scene in the original show. And this
Oh, yeah.
one is Sokka and Katara being brother and sister. And it's like, dude, you just killed a huge love scene between Aang
Right.
and-
Which
That's so
which
sad.
really foreshadows a whole lot of things in the future, right? So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand why they did the change when they did the change, right? Because they're like, we have to have Secret Tunnel song. We have to have that in there,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? But we also have a very limited amount of time, right?
Yeah.
So it's one of those, I understand why they did the change. I don't necessarily agree with it.
And honestly, all the other changes to the whole Boomy thing and Omashu thing, I was all for. Like, I was glad to be thrown through a loop early rather than like them just doing the Boomy and Omashu perfectly.
Yeah.
You know,
It was
because
a-
like it would have been annoying to be like, because a few of the episodes I was like, I already know what's happening entirely, and then the Boomy episode hit, and I was like, oh wait, none of this is in a row. Finally, something new.
And again, it worked really well, right?
Yeah.
Characters that I didn't expect to like, when put to live action, I actually did like better. Like, I was never a big fan of the Lost Boy group, right? The rogues there. I liked them more this time around,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I kind of liked how they did that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how. I'm interested to see how they continue with season 2. I hope they get more episodes. I hope both books end up. I think it's worth padding this series and giving it a little extra to go off of.
It
I
didn't
liked,
make #1 in the Netflix series, which traditionally grants you a #2 if they hold it for a little while. Season 2.
it was #1 for a minute. We saw it as #1 for a bit.
Right, I don't know what Netflix's rule is. Like, New York Times bestseller, Netflix Times bestseller. What did they say? If you do 10 weeks, guaranteed? Something rule like that, or
I have no clue.
I think it's safe to
Yeah,
say that if Netflix has any sense, we will get at least book 2.
Well, and that's just it. It's not just Netflix. It's really any, if any streaming service has any sense, they're gonna start listening to channels like this one, ones that are giving actual critique, if they aren't already. I mean, I'm pretty sure some of them do, but you know what? The thing is, if you
let
guys
us know so we can give you better advice.
if you guys want, well, I mean, we're gonna give our critique anyway, but if you guys want to actually improve and actually grow, the places that are doing it are the ones that are giving you the honest truth about, whether or not we're right or wrong isn't really the issue. It's whether or not
it's really about articulating what we like.
Exactly.
Because for so long, there have been critics out there that have constantly been Negatron. They're just constantly telling you everything they hate. And
well, and the other thing is, I've realized too that there also just doesn't seem to be a lot of room for second chances with certain critics, and that's what we want to help change. Is we want, if you don't feel you're up to the task, if you can't handle any criticism whatsoever, then you shouldn't be making art. That's that. Now, if you don't want to put up with, just hate criticism and rage bait type stuff and whatnot, we get that. We don't do that here. We give our honest opinion, and if we dislike something, if it's unanimous dissent, then we just don't cover it.
Sometimes if it's only 2/3.
Yeah.
Like, we bail whenever we feel like it because we're people. Just like we would bail on a show. Like, that's part of our honest content. It's like, yeah, we just didn't want to keep going. And there are shows out there that are like, no, we'll keep going for you because we care about the IP. That's not us.
The audience and you guys in the chat, absolutely, your opinions on stuff and what you want us to cover matter just as much as the panelists. We consider that, sort of a co-equal branch. Like, there's the panel and then there's the fans. And so
if you just get loud enough or just sure enough about what you want, then we'll start doing every other episode devoted to your choice.
Or rave about something on your own stream that I happen to be watching. I might just say, hey guys, one of our friends likes the thing, let's do the thing. So yeah, join us next week as we also start to embark on Shogun, which is fine because Avatar's dumped, and I'm assuming we got through all the episodes, everybody. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, and Shogun is going to be really interesting because I've actually studied the Warring States period.
Yeah. Also,
that this is set in. So.
Kamran Pasha, a good friend of this channel, also is liking Shogun, so there's room to possibly get him on, and so that may be a full-on half-hour, 45-minute discussion just by itself, if not a full-on hour. But we'll see, one step at a time. First, we gotta get through the rest of what we have to talk about this week. It's only been 45 minutes. Any last final thoughts on Avatar on Netflix before I close the poll?
Well, I think it's honestly, look, I think this is one of those that you need to give it an episode or two at least as a watch and see what you think.
Well, and actually, I do need to finish up because even though I've said it on the Friday show, that did remind me of my final thoughts. So thank you. I do like, so in the first season, Zuko doesn't really have a lot of character, and for me it's hard to want to like Iroh because he's the bad guy, right? Well, of course, season 2 and 3 flip that on its head. Now, in that version of the story, that works. that works that we start with plank of wood, cookie cutter bad guy who turns out to have more character as the show develops, and of course we know that Zuko's story where it ends up. Having that kind of sort of start out of the gate, I love it. And I think it's a better it creates a better premise for Zuko's ascension, because instead of, we're taking this guy who just wants his honor and daddy's approval and we're showing that that's not what's important, we now have Zuko, the compassionate Fire Lord, already out of the gate. And so really what that does is it changes the dynamic of his banishment, because now it's compassion that survives and is forged by the fire. And instead of just, he becomes the good leader because of the hardship.
Changed.
Huh?
Nothing's changed.
What do you mean?
This was Zuko the whole time. Like, this was the one from the show too. The difference is, like, they gave us a few flashbacks earlier and they put Azula's conniving front and center. Like, season 2 is when we found out Azula was scheming behind his back the whole time. Season 3 we find out
no,
Azula
that was actually new. That was actually totally new for this series.
No,
Guys, I
no,
kind of want to point out this piece of this, and I think this is important when you watch Avatar. Every one of the benders is just as goes through the elemental process, if you will, associated with their element. Let me give you an example. Azula and Zuko. The series burns away everything but the core of who they are. Okay? Same even with Fire Lord Ozai, really, when you get right down to it, right? Same with Iroh. The firebenders, everything that is extraneous to who they truly are gets burned away. For Katara, the water polishes her, her water bending eventually polishes her into a character that we love, right? It just sands off the rough edges, right? For Toph, her whole, experience, right, turns her, solidifies the core of who she is into the bender that we know. And Aang, being the Avatar, gets affected by every one of the elements, including air, where he goes from being this flighty kid, and as he's experiencing the different cycles, those same effects happen to him. And I love that we're seeing Zuko's extraneous stuff being burned away sooner.
Yeah.
Because it makes us like the character sooner.
And I think that was necessary for this version of the story.
Yeah.
So,
well, they don't have the time to screw around, right?
Right.
And that's ultimately what it boils down to.
Yeah. It's refreshing. I really like how they made that change, that he basically, that Squadron 41 is basically his personal ship, which that just, like I said, it sets him up even sooner and shows that really his character development is really just withstanding his father's toxicity and winning, surviving it in the end to ascend to his rightful place as heir. And of course in the process has to burn away the excess baggage that is his sister. So yeah, good stuff all around. And so yeah, I want to see a season 2. But sadly, I think we've talked this show ad nauseum as one
let's
person
move on.
Did not like the pull. But that's fair. We're good. Hey, nobody voted. Nobody hated it this time, so that's good. So yes. We do, of course, have our double up of Masters of the Air to get to. But first, we're busting out a Studio Ghibli movie, the first of many. How often? I don't know. If you know what, I will take to the poll as soon as John takes over the discussion. If you have not seen Castle in the Sky, you should. Especially if you're a fan of animation and art in general, because even from just an artist perspective, this movie is worth taking in visually. It's one of Studio Ghibli is one of those kinds of movies that likes to show you more than just tell you and spell everything out. But John, why don't you go ahead? This was, I believe, your first exposure to actually watching a Studio Ghibli movie on purpose.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised, but I was read into some information that I might have watched a bad dub.
Oh.
Watched the one on HBO, so it might have been the watered down Disney
Oh,
version. I don't know for
I don't
sure.
think Castle in the Sky applies for the bad dub. H. Marie, is there a bad dub for Castle in the Sky out there?
No,
That is the original English dub for Castle in the Sky, so all good for
Okay,
Castle
cool.
in the Sky.
In that case, it was awesome. It was very fun. I mean, it was awesome whether or not it was the wrong one, but it's awesome that I also don't have to watch another one. My biggest thing with this Studio Ghibli films is apparently the writer is doing everything most writers claim to be doing. He's actually writing the best of his knowledge about whatever subject while also making it its own thing. So like his whole story, what I found with Castle in the Sky was basically a version of Finding Heaven or the Garden of Eden plus heaven, and what happens when you get there. Like, what do you do with it? One person's doing it so they can take over the world. Other people are doing it so that they can get home. And what do you do? And there wasn't like a great answer to any of it, because like even the guy that was being selfish, he was also being propped up by the military, who was also like, we're gonna be the ones in charge, like we're gonna take this for ourselves, for our nation. And it was all about subjugating their world rather than like the kid who was so freely embracing everything about his life. Like, he was taking life on the chin, standing up for what's right, and going for gold. And he got it every time. Like, that's the difference between pursuing for selfish gain that will only satisfy you for the day you get it, and then every day after that you're either protecting it or trying to get a better version, or you're getting for the group, and then the group gets it, and then try sharing that with everybody every day. And hoping that the group doesn't make a wrong decision that can't be righted because you gave them God power. Like, that's the whole Oppenheimer debate. Like, this whole movie took so many major concepts of seeking power and seeking self-satisfaction, and then put two kids that were against the world just trying to find a safe spot in the universe. And I think that's so awesome, because that's what most individuals are, is just two kids trying to find a safe spot in the universe.
Yeah. And I mean, this came out initially in Japan in 86. And, you know, this is probably, I would argue, one of the very first times we see like decently approached steampunk on screen. Right? Like, they actually did like, I would argue this is probably where the steampunk genre starts. And that's really cool to see on film too, right? There's a lot of pieces to this that, you know, you start realizing, wow, this comes together in a lot of unique and interesting ways. And there's a lot of components and a lot of moving pieces in this show, and they all work together surprisingly well. There isn't a lot of jankiness in this. There isn't a lot of disconnected writing. It all works together really well.
Oh, dude, every line had its end. Like, there was no one-off. There was no plot hole. Every part ended up adding up in the cohesive conclusion, which is impressive. Like, I don't want a number 2 of this story. I don't see where there would be one. It doesn't need one.
Yeah.
All I could see is now a video game that spins off, letting you now be the one controlling the castle in the sky. That sounds fun, but honestly, feels a lot like Breath of the Wild,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Like that's
And like in good ways too.
and not yeah, like it's not a carbon copy. It's a completely different version of the Castle in the Sky. Like
Yeah.
the Hyrule Castle in the Sky is the old Hyrule Temple in Breath of the Wild, and then in Tears of the Kingdom, it's literally the Castle of the Kingdom, and nobody knew it could do that, and nobody's about it. Like it's not suddenly some super secret weapon. It's a different thing that nobody understands, and it's again not Castle in the Sky, and that's cool.
Yeah, the other piece that I really like about this movie is it takes time to breathe at times. Like they'll put a beautiful image on screen and give us enough time to absorb it. And give us enough time to enjoy that image. And that's fantastic too.
Or
this is
relish
just-
in it, even. Like when the
Yeah.
kid's falling, that took forever.
And it needed to though, right? Like in order for it to really resonate, for it to feel, we needed to feel her weight moving through the sky there, and we do. And it's fantastically done, right? Like we all know that Studio Ghibli like does visuals really, really well, but this is where it all starts. This is where they develop that style.
I'm only just kind of I mean, I've watched a few others, and I'm certainly not opposed to watching them again, but it's the Ghibli verse is something else entirely. And I think that if we are going to be taken seriously as any kind of content creators or commentators, that we definitely need to look at stuff like this in particular, because yes, there is a certain style to Studio Ghibli. Old Lady number 2 is used and recycled in like every Studio Ghibli movie. You know that's the Ghibli grandma when you see the old lady.
Yeah.
So there's certain styles that end up being recycled, so it's a style, but each of these, like John said, this is a one and done story. I do not, and this is not an idea I'm putting out there, I do not need a Netflix adaptation, live action adaptation of, crap. What is it, H. Marie?
Spirited Away as of 2020, either this year or next year, they're trying to do a live action / CGI of Spirited Away, and I'm terrified because that poster does not look good.
What?
Well, you heard the crap
why?
here first on the Ryder Brothers, if you hadn't already.
Okay.
You know what? I think we may just shut the channel down and do something else with our lives at this point. God, I don't know if I want to... Because Spirited Away... that just killed my entire rant. Spirited Away, to me, was already, like, as far as the Ghibli verse goes, that one was the one that I'm like, do I really want to keep going down this rabbit hole? That one was weird for me. I'm not opposed to watching it again, but the first experience, I guess I had a different movie in my head. Or expectation in my head. And then I got with that. Now we're talking about a live-action adaptation, and I had trouble even getting through My Neighbor Totoro, so...
It's live on stage that they're bringing.
Live on stage.
They already have a live on stage.
So it's already exists as a live on stage performance, and I guess has for a minute? Oh, since 2022. Okay.
I mean,
So that's not exactly the same. That's just showing a live stage performance, which, would probably be better in person. But that's...
Spirited Away reboot.
Because I did like the live... I did enjoy the live version of Beauty and the Beast. That was amazing on Broadway.
Live action Spirited.
Oh, God. So there is a live action reboot headed to theaters this year.
I mean, I don't understand why we would want that, right? Like,
Part of
the
the
thing
Ghibli
that makes
magic is the art.
that's it.
How are you going? So are you gonna mimic the art in real life? Like, okay. all right. Some people with their cosplays have been doing like photorealistic live action cartoon stuff. Okay, if that's the direction we're thinking, I don't know. I don't know. Man, this is not what I thought was. So as I was saying about no live action Castle in the Sky. No live action Castle in the Sky.
Yeah.
Honestly, stop doing live action of other people's work. Instead, just do your own work.
Yeah.
Like, pay
Like-
some writers to actually take the time to fabricate a unique universe so that directors don't have to be constrained to the whims of an audience. Instead, use your subscription services that already basically have an automated audience if the poster's cool enough, and go for gold. Like, who was the one that did that moon one? That Rebel Moon. Whoever did that one
That moon
is
one.
trying really hard. to
And you
do
don't
a
even
Star
remember who it
Wars.
is. It's your
I
boy
think it's
Zack Snyder.
I love Zack Snyder. I think he ate it on this one, but like,
He ate it. Oh, where did he eat it?
okay, everybody
Okay,
hates
but at
his
the same time,
Superman.
like, look.
I love his Superman. His Batman, phenomenal. Like, I just feel like it was too small for what's already been seen. Like, basically,
and-
he was dealing with Batman versus Superman during the height of the Avengers. And he's like, yeah, but there's just 2 of them. And everyone's like, obviously, you can have 20 now. And then he
Yeah.
was like, I'll get there. And they were like, no, you won't. You're done.
No, look. With all respect to Zach, like, here's what I'm gonna say: Rebel Moon may not have met with what we expect from Zach, but at least it wasn't, like, he was trying to Star Wars without Star Wars, which is fine. But if it had been Star Wars, we'd be having a very different conversation right now.
I would have actually
It
watched
was
it.
a much better Force Awakens.
It would have been a much better Force Awakens, but you know what? I actually enjoyed, I can sit there and I can say, look, Rebel Moon didn't meet what I wanted out of Rebel Moon, but that's okay because at least he didn't destroy something that I already love.
Oh, no, dude. Yeah, I'm in for number 2. He can recover.
Yeah.
Like,
Like-
and he has nothing to go against. There is no, like you said, he's not taking anybody else's thing. He's doing his own, and that's what I've always been in with Zack Snyder. Because even with his Batman versus Superman, he didn't take anybody else's. He just did his. And
Yeah.
it wasn't yours. It was definitely mine.
Yeah.
I loved all of his
Yeah.
Justice League, Batman versus Superman. I loved his
Yeah.
special cuts too.
Yeah. So
So like, Rebel Moon for me was just rough, but
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I
Well-
would rather do rough than
well, and what's not rough is Castle in the Sky. Castle in the Sky is
Yeah.
a brilliant masterpiece, absolutely worth watching. And so far it looks like we'll actually probably leave this poll up till the end of the show because it's asking viewers for content opinions. But so far, after 4 votes, we've got 100% yes for more Studio Ghibli content, which I'm more than happy to discuss. But
Yeah.
yes, Castle in the Sky absolutely has a lot of high points, and well, really the whole movie being in the high point. And it's definitely worth your time and consideration. And like I said, a lot of the magic of this is the art itself. That's why I really don't see the point of trying. I mean, you know what? We'll review it. If there's a live action version, we'll compare it. And if it sucks, are we gonna have
We'll tell
fun?
you.
Oh,
right?
you know what? We might just straight up live MST3K that if it's bad. I mean, yeah.
If it's bad, yeah.
we're
But-
gonna really have to practice that.
But I think
Sometimes I forget
yeah.
to talk. for
we
20
were gonna
minutes.
try and do a book this month, but I think we're gonna do we're gonna soft do a book a 1 month goal of 1 new Studio Ghibli thing a month, and then we'll try to get back to the books. Yeah, we'll try to get back to the books in April. We'll see.
Okay.
But
I'd
Well-
really like to do either My Neighbor Totoro or Kiki's Delivery Service next.
we'll discuss it for April. Actually, maybe we'll do a book at the end of this month. I don't know. I was waiting to hear back for those short stories, but I didn't.
Yeah, I sent a thing.
Oh, you did?
but-
Great.
yeah.
It probably didn't. It didn't notify me, or I missed it. or maybe it was sent in the
Okay.
morning, and I was doing my morning Discord check, like, oh, all right, cool, get back to that, and then, went with the morning fog.
No.
On that note, keeping with the tradition of aviation and sky travel, boy, does Masters of the Air just keep on. I mean, episode 6 was a welcome reprieve from the liver disease inducing episode 5. But episode 7 came back with a vengeance, so to speak, and yeah. So I did learn some things. So there's actually another movie out there about a different B-17 that does 25 completed missions. That's what I thought Rosie's Riveteers was, but no. That one was actually what was that one again? I forgot. Well, I'll have to look it up. I did look it up earlier. But as it turns out, there was actually 10 or 12 B-17s that actually completed 25 missions. So it wasn't as rare as I actually thought it was. I thought it was only 3 or 4, but no, there's actually quite a few of them successfully came back for 25.
Bro, quite a few. Statistically, it was less than 1%.
Well, yeah.
That's not quite a few. That's a few.
Yeah.
It was like a handful.
Yeah,
Memphis
let's
Belle.
definitely
That's the
not
movie.
Downplay the amount of people
Yeah.
that went down in those B-17s.
I think
'Cause
on
that's
the
what
last
Masters of the Air is not doing.
yeah.
Everything that I said at the beginning of this show, they've hit every notch in terms of the I forget which fight they bombed. I just learned about this, but there was a city that they bombed in episode 5 or episode 6 is where they show us the aftermath of the bombing, right?
Yeah.
Where people were killing POWs. Dude, that was legitimately exactly what I was asking for in terms of showing how much it was citizens rallying for the war. Berlin and Britain looked picture perfect the same in terms of how much they hated each other for the destruction of their homes. So their rally cry for war was basically equal. And that's what this movie really shows, this series really shows, is that regardless of the good sides, everybody thought that they were fighting for their home because a lot of people's homes were on fire.
Yeah.
For the record, it's believed less than 15 completed it. Completed 25. But
Bro, I
there
think
is
there
no
were-
accurate number on how many did.
How many were used for the filming of this movie that made 25 successful jumps?
Right?
I feel like this movie did better in terms of numbers because I didn't remember hearing about any crashes.
Mhm.
And this show is not a show in terms of you can turn this on Sunday and watch it all day. I did that with Avatar. I literally just watched it all the way through work. I was so excited. But Masters of the Air, it's nope, this is an evening show. You maybe watch 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And you deal with it.
Yeah.
I
Exactly.
like to say you metaphorically you gotta eat it. You gotta chew on it. You gotta let it pass. Avatar and even just a lot of the stuff we consume on a daily basis, it's more that's junk food and I love it. All of my sugar content comes from cheap media.
Yeah. And for the record, out of the entirety of the B-17 core, only 24% of those airmen survived the war unscathed.
Unscathed?
Yeah.
My ass. All of them were scarred forever.
Well, obvious. Okay, physically, did not
Made it
receive,
through.
did not
We're
have to spend
considered
time
casualties.
in the. Yeah. We're not casualties or injured. How's that?
Yeah.
So
sad.
basically, look to your left, look to your right, and then look in front of you. only one of you is going home.
Yeah, I think on when we do the last episode for that week, we may have to do a movie of the same thing, the Memphis Belle, and see how the two, because that movie was came out in 1990, and
I remember that. That was a good one.
yeah. Well, you know what? Here, maybe I can hype it up a little bit and sell you guys on it, because guess what? It also stars Sean Austin's in it, or Aston, excuse me. I forget.
Samwise Gamgee.
Yep, or Rudy, for those who hate Lord of the Rings.
For those that are uncultured, come on.
Exactly. John Lithgow's in it. Actually, I'm not recognizing some of these names. I'm like, wait, who?
Oh,
anyway.
Throw out a couple of the names that we will never recognize, like Nobody People.
I don't know. Does anybody recognize Reed Diamond?
Absolutely not, but now I'm fascinated.
Billy Zane doesn't sound familiar to me, but
I remember Billy Zane.
Okay.
Billy Zane's been in a bunch of stuff.
what? Maybe I'm just blanking hard.
In the 90s, he was popular.
Oh, well, that's probably why. Oh, he was in the Phantom. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, and in Titanic. But anyway, those are some of the names there that you might recognize. But yeah, it's about one of the B-17s in 1943 that completes its 25th mission, and everybody gets to go home. But we got Rosie in this show who we're following, and Rosie decided to re-up for 30 missions, and this time the targets aren't really targets. They're just designed to draw out the German Air Force. They're just used as bait. And that
I mean,
still
I
didn't,
get it,
it still
but
didn't-
that drives me so mad.
Oh,
Dude, that's the worst thing you can do, because, like, the craziest part, and this is documented throughout Marine Corps history, that, like, if you tell your troops that they're going to be the bait, they're the best bait ever.
why?
Like, because they can get in on it. Like, almost every honorable warrior is willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. That's literally the difference between all the rest.
Why do
And-
you think Orson Scott Card did the premise that he did? Why do you think Ender's Game is the story that it is?
No, it's because of that. Like, if you let your troops know the truth, you have to deal with their individual feelings.
Well,
if you lie
that's
to them,
true.
they are your puppet.
That's true, but the other part of that equation, though, is the fact that these guys, these tacticians, had no real tactic aside from, oh, we're just gonna distract the enemy and use overwhelming force, and that's it. We're gonna throw guys and men at them until we win. It worked in World War One.
Literally war.
No, it's not. It's bad tactics.
No, because if you, like, throughout the whole Ender's Game, the whole book, the story is him learning how to
The
maneuver.
story is him trying to use the most efficient and least casualty way to win the battle, and in the end,
Yeah.
he comes up
That's
with a
war,
tactic that he doesn't realize is actually being used live. But it worked.
Right, but his
It achieved
tactic
maximum
was just
victory
attrition.
instantly. Well, no, actually, it
And that-
wasn't. They were outnumbered.
No, he used attrition.
He
literally
used
was
attrition
like-
to protect the ship, yes, but they were still outnumbered. It was so
Right,
that
and
they
that
could
was
get the
the-
super laser to destroy the planet. That was the whole idea. It was efficient. It didn't result in mass casualties. Compare that to, here's the tactics of World War II. World War II, the Easy Company and Band of Brothers, you want to know what their job was in D-Day? Distraction. They didn't actually have a plan. Their plan was to literally just be a nuisance at 3 a.m. so that way the beach is distracted. That's it. Just like they're using the bombers as bait. They don't actually give a damn about the targets anymore on the ground. It's literally just to establish air superiority just for the sake of breaking morale. It has no actual practical purpose to considering the lives and loss of life. That's my point, is that the tactics are inefficient because they're not listening to the younger people that are like, guys, we're on the field dying. We need to change tactic. Hey,
That's what
hey, you know what we're
war
gonna do?
is.
We're gonna run you the
Because-
same exact track, the same
No, but see,
time.
Parker, that's what war is, because war isn't fought by the soldiers. War is fought by the generals in the back of the rooms just trying to get the other generals to quit.
Well, no, it's just the arguments of rich people fought with the blood of the poor. That's all war has been. For
Right,
the
and
last
they're
100
just
years.
trying to get
So
the
it's not even
other
real.
rich guy. They're just trying to get the other rich guy to sell at a cheaper rate. And they're using all the limbs that they have available to them, which are mostly yours and mine. And that's what I mean by saying that, like, that's all war ever is it is just rich
They
people
didn't need
out and lashing out.
They
But,
didn't
like, that's
need-
the difference.
to establish air superiority. The whole point was so that they could lose
absolutely
bombers,
did.
so that they
That
could
was the whole
replace
thing that-
them with more bombers.
Air superiority is the whole thing that brought America into the war. Like, the fact that people were using planes to do damage was like, oh, great, now they can hit our homes. Like, before that, we had really no care. Britain was getting blitzkrieg every single night, and America was like, but like once they got to us and they got across the ocean, we are like, oh, great, our water defense is broken.
More like, you know, led across handheld, but that's a discussion for Saturday. It's
Well, no, that's
Saturdays
the
now.
discussion of this show is which
Anyway.
rich person benefited the most. And that's always been the debate. And that's like what these movies really bother me about, because it's never happened in the history of ever. Like, the rich people were never held accountable. Mercedes-Benz is a household name.
Volkswagen,
Ford,
Ford.
Chevrolet,
Whoa,
General
whoa,
Motors.
whoa, 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 whoa. No, Chevy's clean.
they sold to everybody, dude. And most of them are made in Mexico for cheap labor. Right? While we constantly abuse the system of
Anyway,
we don't want them taking our jobs unless we're selling them to Mexico.
Anyway.
Like, come on, dude.
Anyway, no, Chevy's brand is clean. Practices currently are whatever, but I mean the history of Chevy. He was just a guy who drove race cars, whereas Ford was a Nazi. But anyway, Masters of the Air.
No, worse. Ford was a pro-American, pro-Nazi.
Mm-hmm. Yep, look it
Like,
up,
he
kids.
wanted that in America.
But this
And that's-
discussion needs to continue on Saturday, because we got to keep it on to the content of Masters of the Air, and that is the show itself is still, really good. Really excited to see how this wraps up overall. But yeah, John, you said it really well. I think is and this is why I love promoting these particular shows, and I say love in the joyous sense of, like, you know, it's a labor. It's because these shows, in contrast to, you take The Patriot, for example. All right. I love The Patriot. I know. It's, you know, America, F yeah, popcorn. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It is not historically accurate. It is historic revisionalism. It is one of those, you know, films that has those moments where they're like, oh, you know, I'm honored to fight with the black guy. Yeah, that's great. That's what it should have been.
Some might call it Mel Gibson washing.
Probably not what actually happened, sadly. But that's okay. That's, you know, the idea we want to promote. That's the attitude we want to promote. That's the whole point of The Patriot, is not to get a history lesson. The whole point of The Patriot, it is for that, you know, Juneteenth, July 4th celebration. That, yeah, freedom. Get the redcoats. This is what it was like. It's about experiencing the atmosphere of the time. That's what The Patriot is to me. It's not Masters of the Air. It's not Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers and Masters of the Air are about bringing the real life experience of what those men went through into your own life, so that you can understand why we don't ever want anything like this to happen again.
Yeah.
And so these films do not at any point do they have moments of glorification and patriotism? Of course. That's what was happening at the time. That's necessary for the moment, but they also have the stuff that they didn't promote at the time. They have the moments where Buck is like, we just dumped our bombs in the harbor and lost how many boys? What? You didn't tell me it was like this. Sorry. Sucks. Hey, we're using the planes as bait to draw out the enemy airplanes just so we can knock them down back to the Stone Age when it comes to the airfield. Whatever. So this is the humanization of the war. This is the respectful, we're going to give you just the actual events and you're going to have to judge history for yourself from there moments. And
This is taking what Medal of Honor and Call of Duty did best, which was putting people on the battlefield, but then
Exactly.
taking you out of the 4v4 combat and making you listen to the actual people discuss it.
Yeah.
Like, these guys didn't feel good. And I think it's funny because, like, if you think about it, a lot of the guys that came back from World War II never said anything except for in their memoirs, except for in their notes. Like, they didn't share this story with their kids because it broke them in every single sense of the word. If the ones that survived were the definition of survivor's guilt, right?
Yeah.
And so they kept it quiet, and now we're getting to actually see what happened to many of our grandparents and why some of us don't have any. And this is actually, like, it's not funny. It's
No.
not, it's like, even when they're laughing, you're like, I'm happy you're
Well,
happy, but
The reason why they're laughing is because if they weren't, they'd be, curled up in a ball and crying, man.
well, life's a
That's-
joke and then you die. That was something we used to say all the time whenever stuff got hard. And
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
passed down through the generations. I bet you that's the thing that gets most people through the hardest parts of war, is just remembering that you can either be sad, pissed off, or funny.
Yeah.
That's what got me
it's
through
the-
2013 to 15.
Dude, it's my whole life. Life's a joke and then you die. So I'm always having a good time.
I mean, that's all you can do is make the best of your situation. And I mean, that's what this show captures 100%. It's all good and it's worthwhile because it like I said, it shows us what happened. It lets us experience it without actually having to go through it. And I think it's because it's just so honest and true without mincing words, without, it doesn't get preachy. There's certain actions that you might not agree with that certain characters do. And you know what? You weren't there. You don't know
No,
what these
also-
people had to go through. And that's what I can't stand, particularly
These
about.
characters are so independent of you.
Yeah.
You don't feel like you can see yourself in Buck. But you can definitely see growing up next to Buck.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
well they are written and articulated. Like, you're like, oh, that's a guy. I wouldn't make any of his life choices. I didn't. I want to know what choices he made.
Yep.
Like, it's so easy to gloss over the I'm not a part of this. That's how great they're, like, written and told to us and introduced to us. Like, I feel like I'm being drug along with the camera, not necessarily a part of it, but allowed to watch.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Well, this was a great discussion overall with everything between Airbender, Castle in the Sky, and Masters of the Air. Gee, it's like we have a theme or something. Now let's head out to the Final Frontier real quick to discuss some Star Trek, and then we got some video game news to discuss, and I think that will put us at the end of tonight's awesome show. Yeah. Poll's staying up in case anybody else comes along and wants to have a word in the content that we're going to continue to review. But first, Star Trek. Deep Space Nine. It was 2 weeks ago. We had the Muse. Two women arrive on the station. One is a familiar face. Loxana Troy comes to visit Odo and announces she is pregnant. Is Odo the father? She asks for Odo's help. Her husband, JL, is Tavnian, and in Tavnian tradition, the sexes grow up apart. She would have to abandon her baby. Odo is reluctant at first, but surprisingly, his relationship with Loxana blossoms after she shows a lot of interest in shapeshifting. Then JL arrives on the station. Wow, that was a pretty good cover for the B-plot. The other woman, Onaya,
Onaya.
is rather mysterious. She tells she has a weakness for artists and seems very interested in Jake's writing capabilities. She flatters him and offers him to show exercises and techniques. Jake gladly agrees and even skips a trip to the Bajoran outback with his father for a meeting. But Onaya's method seems quite intrusive. She wants something from Jake. Oh, don't they all? So, John, what did you think of this episode?
Bro, I think you just got that backwards. Jake's story was clearly the B plot.
I know, right? It's the title of the episode's usually the, line of the main plot, and so that's why it's like, I completely agree, because by the time by the time the Odo story wraps up, you get back to Jake and you're like, oh right, this is a thing.
He's dying.
yeah. Siska's kid's on the verge of crossing over.
And you're also like, yeah, I'd probably do the exact same thing for magical writing abilities. We are the Writer Brothers.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm that much of a sellout.
Well,
yeah, you want to take my life for one piece of the greatest thing ever?
Well, fun fact, that whole story is actually based on Irish myth. As I shared with you guys before you watched the video, there is an Irish creature called the Lananche who appears to artists and grants them great bursts of inspiration, but at a cost. So this is actually based on a real Irish myth. And when I watched this, I had just gotten through my first book of Celtic fairy tales. And I had just finished reading the Lananche, and it comes up in the episode. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is so well timed. And it's such a fascinating idea, right? Like, you meet this beautiful woman who offers to basically give you exactly what you want. And because you're so enamored with her, you don't realize that it's too good to be true.
That was the interesting thing, though. She was offering him to take a break. He just wasn't disciplined enough to recognize he needed it. Like, part of me thinks that, like, if he respected her more than the inspiration she gave him, he could have played the song and lasted a long time. Like,
to be perfectly honest, her method is entirely fair from the beginning. She admits that she's got a weakness for artists. She admits that she doesn't really lie. She just doesn't say it exactly. And as John pointed out, she does offer him a chance to stop, and he decides to choose to continue. So,
right. No, look,
it's still not consent just because, like, she didn't tell him she's eating his soul. Like, you gotta expressly say, like, I'm gonna be stealing your life force for this. And then he can be like, oh, are we talking all of the years right now?
No, I'm actually pretty sure she did. Damn it, it was so long ago since we watched it, but I remember listening closely.
She was more like, you'll give me yourself. Like, it's too lawyer speak. Like, that's
but that's just it. That's just it. English is a
in a
double
court
speak
of
language,
law,
though.
she would get away with it, but that doesn't make it right.
It's not about right or wrong. She doesn't care about right or wrong. If she cared about right or wrong, she would tell him up front. Yeah, okay, I would say that but she also isn't technically doing anything. She tells him what to expect. She offers him a chance to get off the train, and he doesn't.
But that's also part of the Fae aspect of it, right? The Fae never lie, right? And she never does. That's the best part of it. It's just Jake fails to, one, ask the right questions, and two, he is so enthralled with what he is now doing that he doesn't realize, oh wait, this is killing me, right?
I guess change writing for sex, and maybe this story just suddenly makes a lot more sense universally.
Yeah, but change sex for opium, and suddenly it makes even more sense. And also, we hate drug dealers. Like, just because this
no,
getting
I don't know though. Like,
out of his entire life.
that's just it though. We've been told to
And
hate.
no-
Hold on. I gotta stop you right there because, to be perfectly honest, now I'm not gonna admit, to exact names, but I actually, boy, I'm gonna out myself. I actually am friends with people who were drug dealers, and they were kind enough to share some of their experiences. Actually, we're even wrong about the dealers. The dealers aren't even necessarily the issue. You wanna know why? Because the ones that I encountered, they never had to approach anybody at any point. They were, once they got in, all of a sudden the people would just find them. So,
Oh yeah.
so
No, I'm saying we're told to hate them. I'm saying it's like societal standards,
Right.
as far and just moral standards. Like when you're giving people things
Dang it.
that kill them, and you're not telling them that they're killing them. And this is the worst part. The drug dealers I'm talking about are the pharmaceutical reps who lied about the addictive qualities.
different
of
drug
opium.
dealer. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Same thing though. They dealt
No.
drugs. Yeah.
The street guys are actually usually more honest and upfront. You know why? Because they can be. I
Oh no,
actually
and
like
they don't care.
people. You know what they remember? They actually, I can even dumb it down to tobacco. Well, let's keep it legal. Yeah, let's make it legal. Remember growing up in school and people were like, somebody offers you a cigarette, don't take it. Cigarette's bad, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you're told in school that people will... Okay, when I joined the Coast Guard, I had to pull teeth to get cigarettes because people were like, this is a bad decision. And, well, I don't know. I'm grateful for those 7 years because it gives me experience. But, I had to, make it known that, yes, I know full well what I am doing. I am aware of what cigarettes do. Just give me the stupid thing. And you know what? I went through my own struggle and I overcame it. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. So my point is, yeah, we're told to hate the drug dealer, but the drug dealers also aren't really preying on anybody because they don't have to, because the people that want to engage and partake in that stuff, they're gonna find a way to make it happen. There's no getting around that. And so
Right,
it's,
and the Muse could have just been honest about it. Like, they might not get the
Well, she still
youngest
technically
writer that
was.
they've ever got. No, technicalities are great in terms of whether or not you're going to prison or getting a life sentence. But
no, because
when
in
you're
the realm
talking
of
about
spiritual
making
mysticism,
choices if you have
technicality doesn't
magical
matter.
powers. Like, well, no, if you're somebody, if the magical beings are listening, don't be a dick. If drug dealers can be honest, so can magical beings.
Yeah, but even then, the drug dealer just has to be like, yeah, I can get you your stuff. That's really all. That's the first
so
thing
is
they
the
say
magical
to
being.
customers.
If the magical being's like, yeah, this is basically black tar heroin, but you'll also get a book out of it. Then Jake would have been like, so if I dose it, I can get the book in 10 years. And she's like, yeah, it's not great, but I mean, if you're down, I'm down. And he's like, all right, fine. And then what does he do? He builds up a tolerance and treats it and walks his whole life without any actual degradation.
Coriona, I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but I do have to admit, I think you are probably the most experienced spiritual mystic of us all for the moment. Care to weigh in from that side of things and how that plays in with the character?
I mean,
it sounds like John seems to think that spiritual entities have an obligation to make sure you make an informed decision.
No, they have absolutely no need to.
Okay.
Look, as
Not
far
me.
as
Honor. Like, Corion's always been honorable. He's never been like, hey guys, here's all the secrets of being a witch, and here's how to do the darkest spells you can think of. Like, he's like, no, if you're gonna walk that path, there's a path. Like,
right, but there's a
honest
difference.
and open. Right, and that's what I'm saying though, is like the honorable spirit is honest, and that's why I'm saying this spirit isn't honest.
Oh,
No,
I'll agree. It's not honorable.
No, here's what I would say. This spirit is absolutely honest, but it's basically taken the position of, yeah, but it's on you to ask the right questions, right? It's the best way to think of it is
the other thing is
they
too
are like lawyers, right? You can have a good lawyer that will go, no, this is what you want to do, or you can have the lawyer that will talk you into revealing shit you really shouldn't reveal.
Yeah. Well, and that's just
Right?
it. before he died, Jeffrey Dahmer was honest. He straight up told his prison guards, "Don't ever let me out. I'm a monster. I will continue to do what I've been doing." 2 weeks later, he was killed in prison. So even he was upfront and honest with who he was and what he was, and still wasn't a good person by any means. So honesty doesn't necessarily equal good or trustworthy. That's, I think the lesson of this episode.
That's fair. I'm not saying that it makes you good or bad. I'm saying that the difference between, like, because you were saying she was honest in terms of, like, he knew what he was getting himself into. It's like he knew in the most vague sense that she was like, "You're gonna give me your attention," and he's like, "Okay." Like, he doesn't understand that he's giving his life force, because as far as he's aware, there's no such thing. He can teleport to worlds.
Well, okay,
What
but
is
hold on.
life force?
Now let's consider the situation of let's consider the can of worms you just blew open with that statement. So he doesn't know about life force. Why doesn't he know about life force? Because the Federation's too secular, I guess. They haven't taught him properly that maybe while we want to approach things with a scientific eye, let's maybe not discount the reality that what people interpret as our science and quantum physics, maybe we shouldn't.
That's the entire premise of Deep Space Nine.
What?
Like,
That
the
you shouldn't
captain
allow
is the
secularism to...
emissary
Yeah.
of a religion for Bajor.
Oh no! Look, Deep Space Nine,
this
100%.
was just another touch on that. Like, this was just that same premise from another angle.
Yeah, look, Deep Space Nine 100% touches on the very concepts of belief and religion and spirituality, and it's fantastic for doing so.
And I think it was here too. All I'm saying is that, like, in terms of, like, spiritual beings, like, Q is more honest in his vague honesty.
Yeah.
Well,
like, he's like,
yeah,
you
but at the
don't
same
realize
time,
how much you can ask me, but he also is like, you don't realize how petty I am.
at the same
And
time,
Picard's
as
like, I am a strict professional of the flagship ship of Enterprise, and he's like, I'm basically Loki without anyone hunting me.
well,
Yeah, well, that's it. Like, Q is the personification of a trickster god. He's Coyote. He's Loki. He's
anarchy
entity.
incarnate.
and
yeah,
as
he's
annoying
personified.
as annoying as
that's
he
it.
is, though, he's also freaking Deus Ex safe space. So anything he does can just be undone instantly anyway.
Same
Yeah,
with the
fair.
trickster gods. Like, that's the weird, because, like, what isn't undone is the memory.
And you know what
Picard
I would
remembers.
say? The cool thing, well, the key to all trickster gods is they teach. They teach you by making you fall flat on your face and then laughing at you for it, but they still teach, right?
Yeah, in most cases, the trickster god appears to the most proud
Mm-hmm.
or to the most honored. Like, they try to find the ones that are considered the most noble
Actually,
and honorable,
I
and
don't
they try to
even.
cut them
I
down.
disagree. Hard disagree. They go after the ones who declare those things. They go after the ones who preach themselves. I am a true follower of the correct
those
religion.
are the
I am
people-
impenetrable.
No, those are the people they use as examples while trying to
Well-
cut down and show the person who is considered the most honorable the error in their way.
The person who's considered that also isn't going to be that person either, because the person who's considered that is the one who's considered that by popularity. It has nothing to do with actual fact. See,
No,
all
more
right.
in terms of
The layers I'm trying to rip
reputation.
away to here are the simple, basic fact that the person who is that way, the people who are that way, the ones that actually are honorable and living their life as good people and whatnot, no, they don't actually get the trials by life. You want to know why? Because they've already been through them. They don't need them. They also don't feel the need to broadcast the fact, I am so honorable, look how great I am. No, that's not what you
Right.
It's just like saying I'm on the right side of history. I don't need to say I'm on the right side of history. I'm just going to let history decide by my actions, and that's that. And so, no, I don't think the trickster gods target the ones that actually are that way, because either they've already been targeted by the trickster gods of their own hubris, or they're going after the ones that are broadcasting it. But the people that are legitimately humble and legitimately living their lives that way, that's you probably don't know about them because, well, there's nothing advertised.
The god that keeps sending all the beings at One Punch Man, if not a trickster god? Like, he has
just someone who's
literally the
insecure
power
about
to
being usurped
defeat-
by One Punch Man.
What's that?
I think it's someone who's just insecure about being usurped
No,
by Saitama.
in terms of no, because look at what One Punch Man
Whoops.
faces. Like all of these other beings that chased power in a similar vein as him and got, according to them, as powerful as him. They all continued to tyrannize their entire lives. Whereas One Punch Man is like, no, I've always just wanted to be able to be chill. And that's why I'm so strong, is so that I can just stop
That's
things
an
with one punch.
Excellent point
so
that
the
backs mine
being-
up inadvertently, because look at what
No.
Saitama does. Does Saitama chase fame and glory?
No, but
No, but what's his
it's
class?
not. No, I'm not
What's his
talking
class?
about what he does.
What's
I'm
his
not
class?
Talking about what he does.
What's
I'm
his
not
cla-
talking about what.
I understand
I'm
you're
not
not
gonna-
talking about what he does, but
No,
that's just
you're
it.
jumping to the wrong point, because my point is the fact that who is the thing throwing the things at Saitama?
Throwing him at Saitama is one thing, but I also haven't finished season 2 yet.
But that's who I was talking about. Like, that's the trickster god I'm talking about. They
right.
focus on Saitama while using everybody else to prove Saitama's pursuit wrong. And Saitama's like, yeah, that's why I'm a hero, for fun. It's fun to me. Not because you call it fun, not because you call it the rule or the thing to do. He's like, no, I'm a hero for fun. And he's like, it's not as fun as it once was. And then that's where King... Never mind. I'll leave that alone. Because you haven't finished season 2.
Yeah, I gotta finish season 2. I do know that King was getting all the credit for his stuff, and that, kind of goes back to the point that I'm trying to make. It's like, it's not the guys you always think it has to be. We think the tricksters test the most noble of us, but really, it's when we're saying in the middle of that struggle, oh my god, I'm struggling so hard. What did I do to deserve this?
Guys,
And with that phrase,
they
I just
write
answered my own question.
they write those who are righteous and fool those who are fools. That's the best way to put it.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get at.
Long-winded discussion about how to get it. So, Corion, what's this link you shared with
Yeah.
us?
Which one? You're gonna have to be more specific.
The Man Kaizen is only the second.
The
link you
Man
shared.
Kazan Wars.
Kazan.
Okay. The Kazan are the first species, the first aggressive species, like in this series of books. The Kazan are the first aggressive species mankind ever runs into. And it is the stories of the battles that occur between them and humanity.
Okay.
The Kazan are basically, they evolved from a species similar to tigers. They are predatory, aggressive species, built like trucks, have claws. Their species is weirdly bifurcated.
Hmm.
The males are sentient, the females are not.
Okay then.
Yeah, kind of a weird biology piece on them.
Sounds like
And-
certain Republicans' wet dream. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. And at the start of the series, mankind has not yet unlocked FTL. We're moving at near faster than light, but we haven't actually gone faster than light yet.
Hmm.
And at the start of the series, mankind has evolved to the point where we've basically forgotten about war. We don't build warships. We don't build weapons anymore. They're all kind of locked away. And when they realize that, no, we're dealing with an incredibly aggressive species, those vaults get opened. and humanity learns how to be the badasses we are all over again.
Yeah, I think that
So
sounds
it's
like
an
a perfect book series to pick up.
Yeah, and it's all done in short stories throughout the books.
Okay.
It's a fantastic series. It takes place in Larry Niven's universe, which is an incredibly detailed and well thought out series of books. I highly recommend it. But this is a great entry point for you guys, especially because I get to teach you guys the human lesson. And the human lesson, I will tell you the lesson right now. Anything can be a weapon if you're creative enough.
Yeah, I think that's going to be worth
John Wick 3:16, right?
All right.
Yeah, right?
Let's move on now to DS9's For the Cause. Now, this is definitely an episode you cannot skip on rewatches. This is definitely one of the high points of Season 4, and we'll prove that with this synopsis. As Deep Space Nine awaits the arrival of equipment for the Cardassian government, Sisko fears the Maquis might do something about it and increases security. Eddington and Odo have an unpleasant message for him. They suspect Cassidy Yates is involved in smuggling for the Maquis. Meanwhile, Garrick can't keep his eyes off Sial as she returns his looks every time. Garrick is still wary, though, as she's the daughter of his archenemy Dukat, and under the protection of Kira, who isn't too fond of the tailor either. Shout out to Arnold Teal. Once again, another fantastic synopsis that pretty much summarizes both A and B plots quite well. The B plot is what it is. Definitely a very, very solid B plot in this episode.
Well, it sets up characters, right, for being more involved in the story later on, right?
Yeah.
And it feels obvious that that's what it's doing. The A plot on this one is just mwah.
Yeah. So, John, your first time watching, what did you think of For the Cause? And did you see that coming?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, okay.
Sleeping with the captain. Like,
What?
figured. Like, I mean, for like the whole plot, like, it was pretty lined up to make sense. The parts that, like, I don't know. Man, this one's actually harder to remember than the Muse, because the Muse to me was, I actually like hearing about other folklore that is real. Like when Corion brought an actual source material, I was like, oh, let's see how they do it. And I've seen other people do this, so like, let's see who compares the best. And like, I thought of all those things, but for this one, it was like, they've really gotten good at maintaining professionalism over emotion. Like, I was really impressed with Sisko being like, I don't think she's doing this, but I understand that you need to double check.
Mhm.
And that was the part to me that was like, okay, they're getting a lot better at him not being naive to anything. But then also, like, I don't know, the part with the spy Taylor, like, that just seems like any movie where if you spoke Russian, everybody would get it. Like, as soon as you make him a Russian, it makes complete sense why everybody's against him and why they're okay with the young girl, because it's like a Russian girl, like, who cares, right? And then if you think about Black Widow, realizing that she's, you know, raised by Gul Dukat, like, it's like, oh, great. Now it's like a whole different game where she could literally be Black Widow, not, like, basically already on par with the Taylor. But because he's the Cardassian Taylor, like, I don't know, it seems like people just keep brushing over the fact that he's obviously a Russian KGB spy.
Well, they also use it to their advantage, like we saw at the beginning of Season 4 with the Way of the Warrior. That's how they warn the Cardassian government that, hey, the Klingons are
That's
coming
what
to
I
kill
mean.
you.
Like, I mean more the synopsis just glosses over that. Like, yeah, why is he judging her? It's like, because he's the KGB spy and she's technically a
Born to
refugee.
be paranoid.
Exactly.
Hey,
and
man.
also just
No,
interested.
no, no, no,
Like,
no, 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 no. Paranoia is when people don't have threats out on you.
Look, the choices are simple. You either be paranoid or get caught with your pants down. That's it. So yeah. Yeah, what about Eddington churning? Did you see that coming?
I honestly don't remember that part.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I watched the whole episode, but for some reason I am blanking entirely on that.
Literally the whole thing. Cassidy Yates was an entire red herring, so Eddington could get the supplies and steal it for the Maquis. Eddington was a Maquis trader the entire time.
That's weird. Okay, yeah. I was confused. I missed that part.
Oh,
somehow in my memory, like I just remember it being like.
Well, you'll want to watch the last part of that episode. It's like the last part where Eddington leaves and he basically contacts Cisco via transmission and says, "Yeah, I was Maquis, bye." And Cisco's like, "I'm gonna make you regret this."
Yeah, he was flat out like this. This is, I think, the first time we see something that really pisses off Cisco.
Yeah.
I mean, in that sense, it actually makes complete sense. Like, it's actually a really good.
All right.
I forgot that one line because if you think about it, from the jump, this guy is like, "Hey, sir, I need your help. I'm on a secret mission. Can you help me?" And he's like, "Let's do this." And then he's like, "Sir, your girlfriend is the problem." And he's like,
"Oh no.
I'm a professional."
Hold on, you skipped a critical moment though, that covers him perfectly, because it's actually like Eddington is just really well.
Oh no, he was
like, you want to talk about a character that's got small
I
screen time but like matters this much. Like he convinces Odo of the same thing, and he and Odo confront Cisco together. That's how Eddington is able to get the slip on everything, because he's got Odo in
Doesn't
Cisco's
he get
ear.
Odo to come up with the theory?
They both that starts the they
Like it was
both
like
approach
an
him
Inception event.
And they
type
might
thing,
have.
like
off screen.
that's I feel like that was more the interpretation, like it was Odo saying and like reporting to him because they were working together.
Well, so it happens off screen, but you can tell that him and Eddington had that conversation because Odo's like, "All right, this is just speculation, but
It's the out because
It
it was the
could be
numbers
bad.
thing. Like
Yeah.
that didn't seem like an Eddington thing.
So
And-
that's,
and
yes,
then for-
Eddington probably did approach Odo and say, "Hey, Cassidy Yates looks suspicious. Look at this." And he's probably like, "Yes, absolutely." But
He's like,
because
there's
Odo,
something wrong here.
right.
And then he's like, "Odo, you should probably present this."
No,
because you
we should
understand
present
the
it together.
relationship."
So that's why they present it together. They're both together, and so Cisco trusts both of them, and that's how Eddington
I love every moment where they're trying to present evidence about this, because they're both sitting there like, man, I do not want to wind up on the shit list here.
I do
right?
not
Like,
want to get this one wrong. Well, oh
Yeah,
know?
I feel like I just missed that part because I was like, "Yeah, it's obviously the girlfriend."
well, yeah,
and
well, she
then-
was, but Eddington was just using her as a red herring,
It was a bait and switch. Yeah, that's hilarious.
and it worked.
and it worked so well, and the fact that it not only worked that well, but that Eddington was able to pull the wool over everybody's eyes so completely. Right? He didn't just, like, when you think about it, right? These guys are supposed to be some of Starfleet's finest, right? Like, they, and he did it, right? Like, was this a person with like 8 lifetimes experience? No, right? Was it like a 300-year-old Vulcan? No, right? Was this like, some sort of like evil being that came out of a wormhole or something? No, right? This was just a guy who
This
had
was
a plan.
Kirk
who
without
pulled
a
it off.
cause. Like this was 100% Kirk without a cause.
Yeah.
He just knew a way to make some money and went for it.
So, looking forward to getting into more Trek. Before we get into video game news, however, we need to go back to Castle in the Sky because the votes are in, and we have a 100% yes, we should review more Studio Ghibli. But Petey, there's only 83% oh yeah, 16% Ghibli. The what Studio Ghibli and yes they both count as the same answer, because that's how we sometimes do our totally unbiased and totally unrigged polls, is sometimes 2 of the answers equal 1. So it sounds like y'all want Studio
don't
Ghibli.
know what it is.
One of you wants Studio Ghibli so much you don't even know what it is. So Studio Ghibli is an animation studio that's been making movies since what was Castle in the Sky the first one? I thought the first what's this first one? H. Marie. Off
Castle in the
camera and
Sky
off
is the
studio.
first Studio Ghibli movie.
Castle in the
I'm
Sky
the one
is.
that clicked what's Castle in the Sky. I should say.
Our parole polls are even more corrupt than I realized.
It is actually.
Okay, Castle in the Sky is number 1. Cool. So that's the first one we reviewed. Awesome. Maybe we will just do them in order then. Because what's next? Although Corion said Kiki's Delivery Service or My Neighbor Totoro.
Oh, those are both my favorite, and I have to find the correct post.
Anyway, more on that. So yeah, Studio Ghibli is the famous animation studio that's been around since the 80s. They've been making hand-drawn animation. Yes, even in 2008, they still were making hand-drawn cartoons. I think there's a new one that also just came out recently, too. That
Dude,
Which is
they are to anime what Pixar is to Disney.
just pretty much. Like, it's a very unique, just unique. Unique is the only way that I can really, that's the perfect
Unique
word.
but obvious, like individual. A
Yeah,
clear,
wholesome, but
one
mostly wholesome.
studio film.
Yeah, very. Princess Mononoke is violent, but we you know, when I eventually get to, you know, actually not fall asleep watching that one, that'd be great. Keep starting it too late, and we also just, I don't know. Anyway, so yes, we're gonna have more Studio Ghibli content to review at least once a month, because it is very if you consider yourself a pop culture connoisseur, it is definitely one of those things of pop culture you need to ingest and make a part of your, at least watch all of them once, is what I would say. Because every single one of them, even Spirited Away, which I was like, well, I think I was a little spirited away when I watched it. I think that one's still worth checking out, and I'll probably watch it again. But yes. All right, John, video game news, quick. We got less than 10 minutes till we're done.
Dude, give this one to Corion because he came in clutch with this Dune
Corion,
Awake
video game news, go.
news.
All right, let me bring up the article here. Just give me half a second. But basically, Dune Awakening is coming out, which is an MMO set on Arrakis, which looks really good. But in order to make sure that the gamers didn't annihilate each other in big nuclear fireballs, they've had to actually change a tiny piece of Dune lore. And that is, in Dune, if you take a laser and you shoot it at one of the shields, one of multiple things can happen. Either the laser breaks, the shield breaks, or it results in a in a 500 megaton nuclear blast. And they decided maybe not have the 500 megaton nuclear blast.
What was Herbert's reasoning for that?
So the logic was, in the initial book,
But
was
hold on. I just want to make sure that before I start getting super nippy, I want to make sure that I'm not being too unreasonable with thinking that this is a little bit, you know, nuking the shark, because like we're talking about a fusion reaction just because of a laser hitting a shield. So
right.
okay,
So
so I'm
the-
not
It's a
being weird.
fusion laser with a fusion shield.
Right. So let's.
Well,
yeah.
so hear me out on this. Here's why they did this in the books. Herbert wanted to have blade combat be a thing in his universe, right?
Okay.
But he also wanted to have, you know, science fiction elements in it. And he was in a situation of, well, if I give everybody personal shields that they can't shoot through, then I create an environment where people have to develop blade combat, right? So
Or just
can't move
better
fast
guns,
using-
but yeah.
well, the idea is there are guns that actually do work. What happens is
I'm just
when the bullet hits the shield, it activates kind of a secondary engine that slowly pushes through, because fast objects don't make it through the shield, but slow-moving ones do.
slow bullets. Interesting.
Right. Basically, it slams into the shield and then slowly pushes its way through. That's the only bullets that
Oh,
work.
so like a torpedo with an extra thruster after it makes impact to push through the hull even further, so it can explode more into the.
Right. Okay, that's the kind of idea. Now, the idea. So he had to do something though about lasers, because let's be honest, it's a sci-fi setting. Lasers are a thing, right?
Laughs in
And-
Halo. Anyway.
Right. And he wanted to have a really destructive laser weapon exist, but he had to come up with a plot reason why, you know, everyone just isn't shooting lasers at each other and bouncing them off shields all day, right? So he goes, the in-universe explanation is because nobody wants to deal with the potential nuclear fallout. It's too risky. Don't do it.
Yeah, shouldn't have even made that into your final draft, if I'm being perfectly honest, because that just sound that okay. So you know what I'm gonna do? I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make an army of drones armed with this laser to shoot at everybody's shields, and they're all gonna explode. I don't care. I could just annihilate everybody that uses
but this is the
shields
thing.
with drones.
It's not guaranteed that it's going to cause the explosion.
A 1 in 3
Right?
chance. Or 3 drones. There we go. 3 drones per per shield
More
guy.
like, more like 1 in a million chance, but every millionth chance, you just nuked your
Sorry,
team.
it's that
But
just
here's the
seems
other
like
part
a
of it, though,
very,
too.
Yeah. Although
And here's why drones are no good, though. Because you have to remember, in this universe also, they fought a war against AI. So anything that isn't direct, like any computer that is getting near the level of what a human can do is a no-no,
okay.
right? So you can't really drone shit either. That's part of the...
Just need a remote control and a radio signal.
True, right?
Oh, no, I'm not
and
talking
there
about
are-
I'm not talking about Terminators necessarily. I would just literally arm something with the laser. If it's a 1 in 3 chance, I mean that's so at the same time I also don't think they should have kept the mechanic. And here's how you do it. Seriously, hear me out. Okay, first of all, it's an in-game Russian roulette mechanic that you can have a lot of fun with. Because you said there's a chance that the shield breaks, there's a chance the laser dies, or hot nuclear death. So what you do is you take a random number generator. Hot nuclear death is set to like less than 1%.
Yeah.
Then the other 2 times, it's either the laser goes or the shield goes. This means that in combat, you have a decision to make. You can roll the dice with your laser and pop their shield, or your laser's getting popped, or very, very, very unlikely chance, but it could happen and be funny anyway.
Right, but then you're gonna get like jerks that are gonna put together like
Oh yeah,
shield laser in a box and just leave them in marketplaces.
or they'll be
Because
the
for
hackers
the
that'll
lulz.
change the results of the random number generator to like 1,000%. So even if you just think about firing the laser, a bomb goes off.
Yeah, like
I mean,
it's.
Yeah.
I
Or
get why
just-
they made the change, right?
In PvP, like every third game ends with a nuke in the first round.
I'm just saying there's cause here that
Right?
that could, I don't know. There's a way you could have made that work, but that's also kind of like I like the,
The
I
best
like
way
the
to
I
make
like
it
the
work-
either or of either the shield burns or the laser burns, but that in of itself that still leaves you with a very limited weapon because
Well,
you-
no, because the shield or laser burns is literally just like either the gun dies or the player's shield dies. And
but if
that's
you can't match the
same way-
frequency and figure it out, it still leaves an ambiguity.
There's no
in
frequency
universe.
matching involved.
No, it's not a frequency. It's just when
Well,
it
assuming
hits,
that's how
it can do one of the 3 things. Every hit is one of the 3 options.
And the other part of the lore too to keep in mind is the shields.
Yeah.
drive sandworms absolutely bonkers, right? The shield effect
Yeah.
triggers the sandworms into murder mode.
Because it's a
Like, just
resident
hard-
trigger.
So,
Yeah.
whoops. Didn't mean to bring that back up.
Yeah, so it's like hardcore murder mode. So
Yeah.
the idea is, shields were supposed to be very rare on Arrakis anyway, right? And limiting them to like personal combat kind of scenarios for fear of
Yeah.
causing, like a football field sized murderous worm from ruining your day, right?
So, all right. Well, this has been an excellent show tonight. I want to thank everybody who watched, whether you're watching on the replay or live. Shout out to Captain Infinity for joining our discussion, and of course those who participated in our polls. We do appreciate it, and watching the background. It's always appreciated. Whether you guys, however you like to take in the Writer Brothers is entirely your discretion. We're still planning to show up every week. This week, our Friday show has been canceled. Well, canceled is a strong word. It's been reformed into a Saturday show. So please join us for the casual free-for-all Saturday shit show. We'll be talking about any kind of topics. If John decides to come back for more politics. Wait, you don't work Saturdays, do you? Oh no, did we just open up another panelist on the Saturday show? Great! More.
I also rest. I'm a cripple. I like my rest.
So, let the other people do the talking. Just show your pretty face. That's what I do. Plus, Jay likes to talk a lot anyway, so it works out.
Well, that implies you have a pretty face, but anyway.
Yeah. Good one. Yeah. Please join us next week. We got more Masters of the Air. We have also got a lot of other stuff, but I'll see you then. This has been a presentation of the Writer Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Writer Brothers. If you don't like us, we don't care.